Look, I love using my phone and doom scrolling all night, but nothing beats reading an actual book, you know? It's not the same. Good old-fashioned reading just does something special in the old brain. Not only can it evoke deep emotion and take you to another place, it makes you sleep better. It helps you grow as a human being. Okay, reading is good, Evan. We get it. Here's the problem though. As much as you might like reading, sometimes others might not appreciate it as much. See, my wife always falls asleep way before me, and my bedside lamp just gives off too much ambient light for it not to disturb her. So since I'm not ready for sleep yet and want to read my book, this launched me on a quest to find the perfect reading lamp so I could spend as much time as I want in my faraway world without bothering anyone else. So if you too are interested in how to read your spicy books without it affecting anyone else, let's get into it right now. After my research, I discovered there are basically 3 styles of reading lamps: the headlamp, the snake, and the clip-on. I purchased these in that order, so let's talk about them in that order. I'm not gonna get into all the specs about them, like how long the batteries last, or exactly what Kelvin they use. They all have rechargeable batteries that work with USB-C, and the batteries all last for a long time. They can all switch between warm, white, and cool color temperatures, and they all have ways to adjust the brightness from dim to too bright. I'm gonna talk more about the functionality of using them, but we'll touch on one of those things if it's worth mentioning. Otherwise, consider them all the same in that regard. Lastly, while there are other uses for these kinds of lights, like knitting, camping, or just sitting in the dark, my goal is finding the best reading light for nighttime in bed. I'll talk about the rest of the stuff too though. Number 1, the headlight lamp. You know, this thing is pretty handy. I like the idea of it. It kind of looks and aims with you. This thing's a bit of a chonker and a bit heavy, but it does have a very bright light. Now the downside is the light is aiming up. When we're reading, we don't hold books in front of our face like this. We aim it usually down here. Now cleverly, they did put in a tilt on these, but it doesn't quite go low enough. So sometimes in bed, I find that the light just gets lower and lower on my face and I'm wearing it like this. Not very comfortable. And while the light is bright and it's a very wide beam, it's great if you're walking around in the dark, but when it comes to reading and trying not to disturb your partner, even on the lower settings, it's a very wide, very bright light. I like it and I like the idea of it, but there's also something about this I need to share and talk about. And that is the material of this band. I don't think it's good for your skin. Since last summer, I've developed some skin issues on my forehead and on my temples. I've never had skin issues in my life. I was using this for maybe a month or so every night for a couple hours, and I was wearing it directly on my forehead, right above my eyes, and that's right where the skin is affected. Was it wearing this material that caused my skin issue? I can't say for sure. If you do decide to use one of these, I don't recommend using this material directly on your skin if you get one of these cheap Amazon ones. Great light to have, not the best reading lamp. Number 2, the around the neck Python light or neck reading light with goose head action. I couldn't settle on a good name for this one. I like the idea of having 2 lights, one for each page, right? Although I ended up finding it worked better when I crossed them, since I don't always open my book that wide. These are great because the batteries last forever, and they have nice concentrated beams of light, which is good, and you can make it really not bother your partner as much. Now, when you're shopping around for these, you'll notice everyone is reading in a chair with them. And yes, they are great for that since they are adjustable. However, the moment you lay down with one on, you instantly realize why there are no pictures of people using them in bed. They are incredibly uncomfortable. Wait, let's go back. Is she running with this thing on? There's no freaking way you do that. That's insane. The headlamp I could understand, but this, walking maybe, but she's clearly running. Back to how uncomfortable this thing is as a bed reading light. Have you ever taken your TV remote and tucked it behind your neck while reading because it feels good? Exactly. Sometimes if you stack the pillows just right and wear this while reading on your back, maybe underneath the pillow and the bed, it's usable. However, when you start rolling around, it becomes a joke. You end up spending more time adjusting it than you do reading. I often end up just coiling this around like a snake ready to pounce on my chest and reading like that. It wasn't the worst. but it was big and bulky. And then when I lay on my side, I have to spend time and think of a new creative way to use it comfortably in that position. Sitting upright with this thing is good, and I love the focused light that it gives. It's the best of the bunch while actually reading. Again, the headlamp just kind of blasts light everywhere in front of you. This is a channeled beam, which is great for reading, but also good for task lighting. It's funny, my wife doesn't mind reading with dim ambient light, but I hate it. I want the page to be as bright as possible because the brighter the words, the more I enjoy reading them. This gets the nod there. And while camping, this could be a useful light. And if you have crap lamps around your house and just want more light while sitting, this might be the lamp for you. But if, like me, you want a good light to use while laying down, this one is highly uncomfortable unless you can somehow find a spot where it doesn't dig into the back of your neck. Number 3, the clip-on light. Did I save the best for last? Is this light the one you should get? I wish I could say this is the perfect reading light. It's good, and it is the one I am using right now, but it's not perfect. In order for this to work, it needs to clip onto your book, and depending on how thick or thin your book is, it can be annoying to find that right spot. But that's not a big deal. Once on, you can move the light around to find the sweet spot to read with. And while the top of the pages do get illuminated nicely, as you get to the bottom of the page, the light rolls off and is much dimmer than at the top. So when I get to the bottom of the page, I find I'm often trying to curl the book up so the bottom of the page gets more direct light. Otherwise, it's a little harder for me to read. This isn't a big problem with smaller books, but the bigger the pages, the worse the light dissipates at the bottom. I love that it's easy to use once it's on and you find that sweet spot, and how you can roll around with your book on either side without making major adjustments to just stay absorbed in your book. It's definitely the best for that. But I just wish the light was able to be blasted more directly at the page, like the neck light, instead of from the top. They do sell a vertical length light instead of the horizontal one that I bought, but I remember trying that light a couple years ago and being disappointed with it. I like the width of this light, but I just wish the gooseneck was slightly longer, as that could be better for lighting the entire page, but maybe that would make the book even more top heavy, which could be annoying, especially if it's a thin paperback. This light is clearly a very useful reading lamp, but it does have less functionality all around than the other lights, which is fine for what I'm looking for, but maybe not for you. So, which reading light should you buy? For in-bed reading without disturbing your partner, I think the clip-on lights are the best option to buy. I chose the Gritin reading lamp with the horizontal light instead of the vertical one with more reviews, because it has 19 LEDs compared to just 9, and it has a bigger battery. It's a few bucks more, but since I want the brightest light possible, I think it's worth it. I know I was being a little hard on it, but I think this lights the pages well enough with the added convenience of being able to roll around without constantly adjusting the light for it to be the best one. It doesn't seem to bother my wife, and once you find the right spot with it with your book, it works well. I will put affiliate links in the description and comments below, so if you decide you want to get one for yourself, I would appreciate it if you use the links. I'll make sure to link the best deals I can find, so thanks if you're able to support the channel that way. As far as a general multi-purpose light goes, the gooseneck ones are handy to have. I like that with all these lights, they have a very reasonable price point, so you don't feel too bad buying them because they're all just great to have around. They make great gifts also. Maybe not the most exciting gifts, but good gifts nonetheless. This would be great camping, on a plane, using as a work light in awkward places like under the sink, or maybe while doing a hobby, and it's a decent reading lamp. I feel like sometimes you have to get creative to make it comfortable in bed, but I really love the focused light pointing in the middle of the page. The downside about these lamps is you make so many adjustments and they can wiggle themselves loose. As you can see, this one's a little bit beat up. I've had this one for a few years now, and while it still works, and sometimes the right light kind of flickers, so often I only use the left one for now, which is still more than enough light. With that being said, I would buy this again. I do love having it. As far as the old coal miner lamp, the head rash thing I experienced just kind of put me off. It is a good light, and the fact that it angles down is very handy in bed. I think for camping or as a work light, these are just awesome. You could put it over your toque or your hat. I mean, it's a good dad light, you know, for when the power goes out, for if you want to go outside at all. But it's hard to recommend as a reading lamp as the light is just too wide and not quite as focused. This one will disturb your partner the most out of all of them. So that's it. For reading, I recommend The clip-on lights, I think for under 20 bucks, it's a great deal and just makes life a little bit better. For reading lamp, this is the one to get. And for a general multi-purpose / reading light, I think the gooseneck ones are just nice to have. Just don't go for a long jog with this on. That's it for today. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Have you found a different style of light that works even better? Let me know down below if so. As a reminder, on this channel, I just love discovering products or things to make life better. I've really been trying to feel awesome and energetic in life lately, so my next few videos will be about what I've learned to help with that. But I always come back to reviewing products, so please subscribe to the channel if you are also interested in those things. Here's my latest video in case you missed it. Otherwise, watch this video YouTube thinks you'll like next. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Sad Life.
You know why I like this one a little? Because you can bend it and twist it, but make sure you don't break it. Like you can make a question mark or...